Hey y'all, I hope everyone's doing well. Actually, let me cut the light on overhead and see if that helps any. I don't necessarily have to have a super bright background, but I do want to share some thoughts. As you can tell from the title of this video, I have been processing the death of my parents for a few years now. My mother died approximately 11 years, 12 years before my dad did. They're both in heaven now. They're having a blast with Jesus, and there's not a care in the world for them. I did go through a grieving period, and I have collected notes from books and friends, journaling, prayer time, pamphlets that I found at funeral homes. I mean, all kinds of different ways to process when you lose someone. And one of the most profound things I ever heard, believe it or not, was when I lost one of my dogs. And I had a friend at church who had lost an 18-year-old daughter to a car wreck. And she'd asked me and my husband if we could sing at the funeral. Later they ended up, I think one of the ways they processed their grief was that they helped produce an album for our band that had some of their favorite songs on it. So we got to be very good friends, but she's a very quiet, very kind of shy person. And when my dog died, I was devastated. And I've never actually birthed children. The kids that I have a mom. I am a stepmother. I have been a parent, and I also have been a kid. So I feel like I do understand about raising kids, but I've never had the actual experience, the joy of birthing a child, so that they're my own blood. But I love my stepchildren. I don't call them stepchildren. I call them my kids, except I'm very respectful of their mom. And so I maybe thought that some of the love that I had for what would have been a human child was placed into little doggies, because they're like having a little child. You have to take them to the doctor, you have to care for them. And they make as much mess as little children do in their little poopy peepees, and require as much attention, constantly wanting your attention, all that kind of stuff. I know it's different, but for me it was a devastating loss. And I couldn't really share it with anyone because I thought they would think I was nuts to be that upset over a dog. So I went to church that Sunday, and this lady came up to me and she goes, "Beth, I'm so sorry. I heard about your dog, and I know the pain of your loss." I'm like, "Oh no, you know the pain of losing an 18-year-old daughter." And she said, "It's the same pain. It's how much you love." And I thought that was so profound, that what happens is we have love for people and animals or whatever in our heart. And when that person or animal goes, that love that's in our heart for them goes with them. And so there's this huge hole, because you have all this love to give that's just bundled in you, and now it's gone. You still love them, but the act of love is gone, and it leaves this horrible hole in you of the love that you won't actively be giving them. And I think that's what she was trying to say, is it's not that you don't love them anymore, it's that you love so deeply when you love, that when they go, it is just equally as bad. And I thought, wow, that's profound, coming from a mother who lost an 18-year-old. And so I say what I'm going to say today from my experiences with death. As being a singer, me and Lance, my husband, who's a guitarist, are often asked to play or sing at funerals. Someone's favorite song during the service, or at the beginning or the end, or at the graveside, or something like that. Because Lance can also, play acoustic, so it doesn't have to be electric or anything. I don't have to have a microphone. Most funeral homes do, or they also have background tapes you can put in and all that kind of stuff. But I've done a lot of funerals. I've seen a lot of death. and now I've experienced a good bit of it, and of loved ones. So I thought I would share for anyone who is grieving specifically the love of a parent. And I'm going to kind of kick through my notes and tell you that for my mother experienced an illness that kept her in the hospital for 3 months before she died. So it was exhausting. And I remember my cousin told me, Beth, exhaust yourself with her care. And I thought, what odd advice. It seems like they'd say, take care of yourself and all that. But she was right. Because when my mom did get picked up by Jesus, because she was a Christian, and in John 14, 1 through 11, Jesus is very, very clear. Matter of fact, I'll read it to you myself right now so that you know that if you have a Christian loved one, and we hear the old song, a band of angels coming forth to carry me home. Well, that's not how it happens. I'm not saying that angels don't follow Jesus everywhere he goes and attend to him and worship him. But it is him himself who picks you up. And so I'll share that with you real quick. Again, that's the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verses 1 through 11. But I'm mainly going to focus on the beginning of those scriptures. It says, don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me, because he was God, is God. There's more than enough. What is this? Is this NLT? I don't know what this translation is. NLT. Okay, so it's a little more modern, and then that's okay. It says, there are many rooms in my Father's house. If this were not true, I would have told you. That's really important to me, because I feel like it's saying, if it weren't true, Beth, I would have told you. This is Jesus talking to me through his word. That when I'm going to prepare a place for you, when everything is ready, I will come and get you, so that you will always be with me where I am, and you know the place to where I'm going. And then it says, no, Lord, we don't know. Thomas said, we have no idea where you're going, so how can we know the way? In verse 6, Jesus says the famous verse. Jesus told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. If you really knew me, you would know who my Father is, and from now on, you not only have known him, but you've seen him, meaning I am God. So the important part of this for death, besides the fact that Jesus is God and that he went to the cross to die for me, and so that when I die, it's not the end. It's not the end for any person that places their faith and trust in Jesus Christ. We try to live it out the best we can. He went to the cross because he knows we aren't good at that, and he can give us forgiveness. But the verse that I focused on really was when everything is ready, and there's a whole study about that, about when the bridegroom comes to pick up his bride. They get everything ready for her, and then he comes and gets her in an appointed time. So he says, when everything is ready, I will come and get you so that you will be with me where I am. Well, where is Jesus? Well, he's in heaven. He sits at the right hand of the Father, or the right side of the Father. Right placement of the Father. I don't want you to think of 3 thrones. And he's in the right one, because it tells us he's in the center of the throne. So we can get into all that some other time. Comment below if you're interested in that. But the bottom line is, Jesus himself comes to pick you up if you are a Christian when you die. There's great comfort in that, knowing that Jesus came and picked up my mother. Jesus came and picked up my father. My mother had struggled for a long time. I did exhaust myself with her care, and it did help me to know that when she went, I had done everything I could by that. So that was important. It was good advice, to be honest with you. That doesn't mean that you don't take care of yourself when you are grieving. Okay, so it hits you that the person who birthed you, who nurtured you, who made rules about not crossing the street without looking both ways, who bathed you, who protected you, who helped understand when your boyfriend broke up with you. A thousand things is gone. She's gone. If I get emotional, I might. And it's been so long, it doesn't ever get any easier. I'm sorry to tell you that. Those that it may be fresh. It may be harder the first year because it's the first time after they leave that you're reminded, almost like an anniversary. But to me, it was harder the second year. And that's because it was the second time I was reminded, and it hit me, this is never going to be easier. Every time I think on it, it's painful. Every time. But you have to go on with life. That's what your loved ones would have wanted you to do, and so you do, but you still have the pain. Some people say it numbs a little, it gets lighter. I don't think it does. When I stop and think about it, it's very, very painful, and sometimes I still have to have a good cry and get past it. Especially one time when I was in the garden, my mother loved gardening, and I just broke down and had a big cry in the garden. I said, I wish you could be here to see how good I did, but I didn't really think she was listening, and personally I don't think they do. I think they are in heaven looking at Jesus Christ and seeing all of heaven, and I don't think they look back here and they're watching your every move. That's for God to do. And they're not God. They're not angels. They don't, they're human beings who were saved by Jesus Christ and get to go live with him. So, we'll get into a whole thing about it. What is it? A spirit? Is it a body? Is it a new body? Is it now? Is it at the resurrection? There's a lot to talk about. And when you face death, these are the questions you want answers to. But here's the bottom line. They are in Christ if they're a Christian. There's also the question of what if they're not? And I know some of you may be facing, I don't know if my parent was saved or not. And that is a very tough thing. But here's the one thing I'll say about that. Maybe they weren't as far as you knew. But there's things we don't know. And there's things, we know that you have to make a conscious decision for Jesus Christ unless you can't. The Bible's very clear that if you're not accountable, you're not accountable. Meaning if someone is a baby, if someone is mentally unable, or they've never heard of Jesus, which you think that's not possible in this modern day world. I've met someone before that they were like, Jesus who? Like he had a last name, and he may have. We're not told that. His last name isn't Christ. Christ means the Messiah. And they really didn't. They'd never heard of him. It was in New York City, and that's not that city. It can happen